All right, guys. So as promised, this is going to be the first part one reaction video to the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview. I'm going to be interrupting. I know some of y'all hate when I do that, but we got to talk about some excellent key points that Joe Rogan asked Donald Trump. That this is going to be very interesting, guys. So I want you guys to follow along on this, and I will set you guys up and let's check it out.
Influences outside of environmental that keep people from wanting to drill for oil and frack and do those sort of things outside of the environmental concerns, which are legitimate, of course.
No,
but are there other influences that maybe over accentuate or over exaggerate these environmental effects? Are people being influenced in a way where they're trying to keep us from producing American oil?
Yeah. So the environmental is the biggest tool for stopping growth, the biggest tool. The other is regulation.
He's not lying about that. I'll go into that. Well, let's keep going.
And if you speak to Elon, he said the regulation now to send a rocket up to anywhere, even if you do everything, it's becoming impossible. But they use environmental in order to get people not to do anything. And sometimes I say, I look at some of I know the environmental stuff better because I had to build buildings in New York. I had to do environmental impact studies. And I would see some of these guys that I'd hire for a lot of money, environmentalists that would get you through the process. And they'd be up in Albany, that's the capital of New York. And they're up there trying to make it tougher for guys like me that were builders because they'd get paid more money. In other words, I had one guy.
All right. So I'll elaborate a little bit on that. I have my own experience from that for sure. So I'll give you guys this. There was an instance where we were waiting on a job in 2012. It was a big job out in California, right on the border of Nevada, called the Ivanpah Solar Complex. The job itself was held up, and I'm not lying, this is true. The job itself was held up for maybe about 8 months or so because they had to have environmentalists go out there and literally move tortoise. Literally, that's just like that. They couldn't pick them up or they had to literally kind of shove them out of there. 8 months. You know what I mean? Like, I think there might have been at the peak of the job, maybe about 3,400 people, maybe a little more. But you just got to think, tortoise are holding up 3,400 people. Millions and millions of dollars on a project is being held up by a tortoise. But this is the job that the environmentalists do. They do hold things up. And, I have mixed feelings about that. I understand that they're there, that the animals are there first. But I do believe there's a professional way that we can, swiftly get the animals out safely without having to wait on their time. But, I have mixed I have mixed feelings about that. So let's continue.
Highly recommended. I was good at getting permits. I was one of the kings I was always very good. But the environmental stuff was always horrible. They could slow a project down 10 years, 15 years. I had a project in Louisiana, built big LNG plant. It was for 14 years. It was going to cost $18 billion. One of the.
If any of my followers were on that project, let me know. That was a Bechtel project, and I used to see so many postings about that job. That was a massive job that he's talking about. The LNG plant, I believe, I might have that wrong, but I believe Bechtel built that one. But that was a massive project.
The biggest, like the Empire State Building, laying down on its side ×4, massive, on the coast, on the Gulf Coast. And they said, sir, they're going to give it up. I said, they shouldn't give it up. What's the problem? They can't get their environmental. They had environmental permits that would fill this whole room up to the ceiling. And they said there was one mistake on one little line. They want them to do it all over again. It's not going to happen. And I got them their permit instantly. And they built the plant. It's massive.
Now, regardless of whatever you think about Trump, there's something that you have to remember before him even being in politics and running for president and all that. That's what he did. That's how he acquired his wealth, I guess, or whatever, was in real estate. So Trump does know a thing or two about building permits and where to put buildings and all that stuff. That was his bread and butter. So I wouldn't even argue with the fact that he knows what he's talking about when it comes to that, because that's essentially what he did.
So when you're saying that, so there's people that are making money by making it difficult.
Yeah.
Are you talking about lawyers?
No, I'm talking about environmental consultants and lawyers.
Environmental consultants profit off of dragging out the process.
Absolutely.
And
how
do
make
they
the
profit?
Process worse.
How do they profit?
And I'd probably do the same thing if I were them, to be honest with you.
As
I want to be honest with you.
How do they do that? How do they make it?
Let's say New York, they go to Albany.
Okay.
And they convince people that if you have a certain type of plant on the ground that's this big and in theory valueless, that it's a rare plant and you cannot ever even touch it. You can't go near it. You can't put a building on it.
Dude, he is not lying.
Right? You can't do anything. Or there's a little puddle and they call it a lake and you have to go by the standards of a lake. I said, no, that's a puddle. Oh, you have no idea. Guys are filling a little puddle. You have no idea what they do.
Y'all, if y'all ever wondered why some construction projects might be taking so long, this is the reason why. Like, everything he is saying is true. This is why I think a lot of people don't know this.
They do.
And
they use it as a way to stop you.
They use it as a way to stop you, and also as a way to generate money. I'm curious how they're generating money that way, though.
Well, they get fees.
They get fees,
massive fees,
and
you pay these guys.
People rely on them as experts because they're the people that they go to when they have to run these studies in the first place.
But some of them are just bad guys, and they're trying to make it more and more difficult.
And they have a lot of power.
I think they maybe had more. They didn't have as much with me because I would get through them, and I understood it. Look, I've done so many they call it environmental impact study.
Yo, this is crazy. Like I said, I'm going to do multiple videos just on this, just off of this one interview. But man, it is insane how much truth is in this that I can relate to, that I know personally what Trump is saying to Joe Rogan. Man, shout out to Joe. These are really good questions that he's giving real answers to. And I think it's just cool that we can relate to it as far as, the industrial sector. I believe a lot of people don't understand, like, hey, what's taking so long? We've been waiting on this. And I could just remember back being in the union hall saying, oh, we're waiting on permits. This is real. Like, this is real. The environmentalists are really doing that. Like he said, if they can prove that, hey, this plant is native soil to, I don't know, New Jersey. Like, this is the New Jersey plant. It only grows once a year. And hey, we really love this plant. I can understand that. The plant's been here for 30 years. So are you going to let this plant be here for 30 years? Or are you going to choose to not build a power plant that can essentially provide heat and air conditioning for 700,000 people? You know what I'm saying? You got to learn how to weigh those options. And I just don't think that the environmentalists, they just don't understand that. And let me rephrase that. The public doesn't understand that. And so I believe that they agree with the environmentalists, like, yeah, let's go green. And wait a minute, we need the power. It's wintertime is coming up. You guys do understand that. But guys, these things take time. Hold on, for part 2 is coming. All right. I hope y'all enjoyed this part 1.